What is up, you guys? Today we are going to continue jumping around in topics on this channel. If you like that sort of thing, then you're welcome. I just make whatever videos stick out in my mind that week. I am trying to continue weekly uploads, but you may have noticed last video about Andrei Kirilenko was about half an hour long, so I took a few days off after that grind, but we are back. Please like the video before we get started. It helps me out way more than you realize. Now, let's get rolling. Most everybody has at the very least heard of Julian Newman. He was one of the nation's most gifted youth basketball players who had mixtapes blow up all over YouTube throughout the mid-2010s. He was on track to be the next great high school basketball recruit, but reality kicked in more and more as the years went by. Unfortunately for Newman, he only grew to stand 5'7". His elite speed and handles at an early age never really improved much in high school. A good analogy is that he sprouted up like a weed. If you watch his 8th grade highlight videos, you will be impressed with the confidence and basketball IQ the kid had. But over time, his peers caught up, then surpassed him. During his last 2 years of high school, Newman often looked overmatched. Don't get me wrong, he definitely had his moments where it did look like he had the ability to play at the next level, but then you would see him play against genuine Division I recruits and he rarely could put up much of a fight. I know that basketball is a team sport, so the losses are not entirely on him, but the footage does not lie. I do not want to make blanket statements that you've heard a million times. Instead, I want to actually analyze his game and figure out just what he does on the court, keeping everything fair with video evidence. We will begin with offense. Inside the arc, he struggles mightily. He can only hope to get floaters off, but it seems he rarely settles for these, instead opting to drive all the way to the hoop and either turn it over on the ground and get blocked by someone much bigger, or he simply blows the layup completely as a result of how quickly he's trying to sneak up the shot. Newman does have good hops for a 5'7" guy, and this is a result of his remarkable hard work off camera, but it is in no way enough to make up for his height. On a basketball court, his athleticism does not aid him really in any way. Guys his stature can play with taller crowds, but they have to develop certain skills in order to compete. Newman tries to avoid these skills and rather play like everyone else. His supporters are quick to point out that his three-point shooting is what makes him elite. In fact, his father even went as far as putting him up there with Stephen Curry, Damian Lillard, Trae Young, and LaMelo Ball. Yeah, no. It is impossible to know his true three-point shooting percentage as full game footage is unavailable, but based off of the footage out there, we can assume it can't be very impressive. He takes stupid deep threes a la young LaMelo Ball, often missing them by a mile. But every now and again, he will hit a few in a row, and bam, you have a hook for another video. But that's all that is. A brief couple minutes of glory. This three-point shooting is important for him to move up in the basketball world, but he needs to figure out how to get higher percentage shots off. In orchestrating an offense, Newman is actually pretty decent. He can pass, but with such lackluster teammates, it is often for naught. I need to mention his handles. They are pretty good, but to put it simply, he needs to chill out. There is a time and a place to whip out one of those killer crossovers, fake step back, spin, shimmy, hesitation euros, but often he will just dance 10 feet beyond the arc with plenty of room between he and the defender, accomplishing nothing. Then, when he actually attempts to penetrate the defense, he gets the ball poked away pretty easily. This is because the dribbling drills you see him and many basketball players do is pretty cool to watch, but in a game, if you cannot react to defenders and consistently keep the ball away from their reach, they're pretty useless. In the NBA, it is rare to see a point guard waste energy doing fancy tricks 30 feet from the hoop. It is almost completely useless. Newman would be better off keeping the ball in a position where he can either pass, shoot, or drive at a split second's notice, even if it is far less glamorous. The last note I must make is his defense, which is completely non-existent. Julian Newman is a complete non-factor on that end of the floor, and the problem is not his size, as many sub 6 foot guys have played Division I basketball and a handful have even made the NBA. And they all get that far thanks to extreme effort on both ends of the floor. The problem is Newman does not seem to care about that half of the game, because you can't really make mixtapes with locking down guards. It's just not really a crowd pleaser. As it stands, his offensive game is far too poor for him to be such a liability on defense. A little aside here, many people have even pointed out over the past couple of years, Newman has regressed to the point where he is no longer his team's best player. And this is actually true. Newman has not regressed, but his teammate Emmanuel Maldonado has risen to be the true star on the Downey Christian / Prodigy Prep team in Florida. Someday, we may get a video on this kid. Let me know in the comments if that's something you guys would like to see. So now that Julian Newman's high school career has finally come to an end, 6,000 points later, which is pretty amazing, what is next for the child prodigy? According to his family, the world is his oyster. His dad claims he has over a dozen Division I scholarship offers, which honestly I do not doubt. There are a ton of small schools out there who would love the publicity he would bring to their team. And Newman definitely can become an, at the very least, solid college point guard if he takes the time to work on his weaknesses and buys into a team culture where he is not the star. But according to the man himself, Julian is going to play professional next year. So now we are at the part of the video where we break down his options and try to guess where he will realistically go. I have this separated into 3 different categories. The first is the easiest one. Newman is not going to play in the G League next year. As of me recording this, only 4 high school players have announced their intention to play in the newly founded G League Select Team in 2021. These kids are all ESPN Top 100 recruits. Newman is nowhere to be seen throughout the recruit ranking website, so I think it is outrageous to assume they would offer him a spot unless they get absolutely desperate and need to fill out roster spots, which I don't think that's going to happen. I put this at way less than a 1% likelihood. The next bunch of these leagues I'm going to label as very unlikely but not impossible. They are Germany's Basketball Bundesliga, Italy's Serie A League, the Chinese Basketball Association, and Australia's National Basketball League. These are all well-respected pro basketball leagues with full-grown men making careers for themselves and trying to get calls to the United States to join the NBA. It would shock me to see Newman be invited to play in any of these countries unless it is purely a publicity stunt for a team on the brink of financial ruins. I would put all these leagues at about less than 2%, honestly. This last bunch of leagues I'm going to label as the most likely. Though he has not said much of anything about his intentions to play in any of these, they would not shock me. I have Puerto Rico's Baloncesto Superior Nacional League, which, excuse my pronunciation, the British Basketball League, and the National Basketball League of Canada. In the case of the British and the Canadian leagues, neither are doing well financially, and though the sport is widely played within their borders, interest in their domestic leagues are remarkably low. A name like Newman would spark viewership and ticket sales. And the Puerto Rican League takes advantage of a heritage connection. Newman comes from Puerto Rican parents. Basketball is popular on the island, and Newman could contribute in potentially a very big way there. This, I'd say, fills out like 95% certainty in my eyes. Lastly, I must say I have very little faith in any of these leagues actually going after Newman. But he will be headed somewhere. All we can do is wait and see where it is. Then we will finally be able to properly evaluate him and make decisions about whether or not he has an NBA career based off of how this next year goes. Thank you guys for watching. Please let me know what you think of Julian Newman, as well as where you think he will be headed next season. Unlike a lot of people, I do not hate the kid. I admire his work ethic and the passion he has towards being the best he can possibly be at something he loves. Every pro athlete has a little selfishness in them, so don't use that entirely against him. Let it be on the record that I want to see him succeed, but as it stands today, I don't think he's going to make it in the NBA. Please comment, like, and subscribe. I will see you all next time.